Well, thank you, Representative Schofield, for hosting this event where we can come and talk about a big idea. And I want to say what a pleasure it is to be with Judge Lamont and Kyle. I have very high regard for these individuals. And can we agree that on big ideas there are sometimes differing views and opinions? And so what a wonderful occasion to come and to have a chance to hear both sides of this big idea that we're presenting tonight. I say big idea because we live in a very unusual state. We live in Texas. Texas is experiencing some extreme demands for more mobility capacity. What does that mean? There are 1,000 new Texans moving to Texas every day. And don't take my word for it, but when you're driving up and down the highways, I think you see a lot of out-of-state license plates. And they're not just here for the tourism. They're here because the word is out. This is a great place to live, isn't it? And the secret's out that they can come here and have a chance to live in a state that salutes free enterprise, entrepreneurship, and they can get ahead. And we don't blame anybody for coming here because we understand that's why we moved here. And so we're under this extreme demand for more capacity on our roadways. And our roadways are congested today and will grow in more congestion, more demands. In fact, Governor Abbott says the cost to those of us who live in Houston, the cost of congestion is about $1,500 per year. Out of my pocket, out of your pocket, everybody in this room, that's the cost, average cost of congestion that's calculated by Texas A&M's Transportation Institute. That's not just a throwaway number, that's a real live number with measurables behind it. So it costs us a lot of money, doesn't it? And the challenge to our mobility is only going to grow because we have this very dynamic population explosion. Now, we can do two things. We can ignore growth and say we don't have to do anything to address it. We can kind of go about our own business, maybe go into our bunker, or we can run towards it. We can try to be proactively involved and shape that growth. And so if there's anything tonight that I would ask you to consider, is that while we live in a high growth state, we really can do some things to shape that growth. And this big idea, the bullet train, it means jobs, it means paychecks, and it's a world-class transportation system. So I'd like to show you a few slides tonight about this big idea. And the thing that makes it really, really big, you're going to be impressed with the fact that it runs at 200 miles an hour and carries 400 people between Dallas and Houston. You'll be impressed with that. But I think most everybody is stunned to know this is not a government project. There's not a dime of government subsidy involved in this project. There is not a dime of government money involved in this project. So we're going to have a lot of fun rolling out this. Now, it's interesting that we have questions about how it's going to be funded. And in the oil and gas industry, which goes up and down, it's very volatile. We don't see the same concern about billions of dollars being spent to build a refinery. And yet, from the Gulf Coast, from Brownsville all the way over to Port Arthur, there's announced and under construction about $160 billion of refineries. But that's a volatile industry, isn't it? But nobody's going to use a transportation conveyance system because, see, that's the logic that's kind of comical, is that we know the congestion and we know there's going to be more and more demand for this mobility system, and the private industry is taking the risk. So let's go ahead and look at some slides and take a look at how this system works. And there's 4 mega trends in our state. We've talked about population explosion, that's one of them. The other one is Panama has just opened a new shipping lane. And let me tell you what that means. It's really good news for especially those of us who live on the Gulf Coast. It's good news for the entire state of Texas. Our tonnage is going to double. It will literally double. That means more trucks. Have you noticed more trucks on our highways? That is not your imagination. There are more trucks, and this has been studied by TxDOT. There's going to be even more freight trucks freight haul because there's more tonnage coming through the shipping lane in Panama, bigger vessels, doubling the size of what we can do. They can come through this new shipping lane. The other mega trend is fracking. And we just don't have enough underground highways, which are called pipelines, to haul the crude to the refinery. And so those trucks have to go on our highways, more trucks. And the fourth trend that you probably don't think about, I don't think about it that much, is the trade with Mexico. Mexican economy is skyrocketing, and economists say over the next 30 years that the Mexican economy will eclipse that of Germany, which is the euro. So these are four mega trends that when I was at TxDOT on the commission, we were studying these, trying to understand how to get ahead of them and how to pay for them. So here's a few ideas on how we can take this demand for more capacity and open up our highways and save we, the taxpayers, money on building more roads. And we've talked about the population growth points directly to the need for rail. That's interesting. Texas has more rail than any other state, more than 10,000 miles of rail. And if we look at the shipment of goods to market, guess what? The Trinity River was the first highway between Houston and Dallas. There were flat-bottom boats that conveyed cargoes, primarily cotton, down to Galveston. Then the rail came along. And almost everybody in this room has ties to rail. And of course, between Houston and Dallas, Burlington Northern now runs, and that's where the communities grew up. Kyle lives in Jewett. It's where Burlington Northern and UP come together. Then the highways came along after the rail. So we're talking about connecting the economies of Houston, about $500 billion, and the economy of Dallas, about $500 billion, in this infrastructure zone where you have now I-45, Burlington Northern, and a high-power grid. So we're talking about a big idea, which is an electric train that will run somewhere in this infrastructure corridor, 200 miles per hour. There'll be a station here in Houston. There'll be one in Dallas. And most interestingly enough, there'll be one to serve the universities of Texas A&M and Sam Houston State. This is pretty interesting. Texas A&M is 55,000 in enrollment. Do you care to guess what Sam Houston State is today? It's 40,000. So this will become a stop en route. It's a 90-minute trip, and during the peak demand, we'll be able to run every 30 minutes at 200 miles an hour. So here's this conveyance. Imagine you're wanting to go to Dallas from Houston, and you have the ability to go to this platform, and it'll be designed where you can take your phone, buy your ticket, and walk through that gate right there, get on this train, and it'll get you in 90 minutes, and you'll have the ability to sit down and have Wi-Fi. And the reason this will get you out of your car is because you can have the convenience of not having to drive yourself, and you've got Wi-Fi and the ability to have an office and the comfort of a business class seat. And it will also, that mountain's not in Texas, by the way, but it just shows you this conveyance system works very nicely through rural areas, through urban areas, and it's about 70 feet in length. So the platform's going to be pretty long. It'll have 8 cars. Each one of the cars has its own engine. They're light. It doesn't have the vibration that you associate with a freight train because it's just a lighter train. And it sounds about like a hairdryer when they do the sound testing, but it's about 4 seconds. 4 seconds in passing. Why? Because it's going at 200 miles an hour. So this conveyance system has been operational in Japan since 1964. And that doesn't sound like very long ago, but that was half a century ago. 50 years ago, this high-speed conveyance system opened up. It's now operated today by Japan Central. It's a private sector entity. Japan Central acquired this system about 8 years ago. And that's the equipment that we'll be bringing. That's our technology operator, the Shinkansen 700. It's the 7th generation. So the equipment continues to evolve in its technology. Here's the rest of the story. It's been operating for half a century. No accidents, no deaths. Would you say that's a good safety record? I would say it's an outstanding safety record. And the reason that it's a safe conveyance is that it does not use any at-grade crossings. There's no reason to go at-grade because we'll be using primarily this construction of a viaduct. So there's no way that we're going to be blocking roads. We think of trains, don't we? Because we've got 10,000 miles of them, primarily freight. We think of them going across the roadway and closing the roadway down. This is an elevated track. It means that automobiles can pass underneath it. It means livestock can pass underneath it. It means farm equipment can pass underneath it. And this is the primary construction that will be used, is the viaduct construction, an elevated track. Our company is looking at $10 billion plus. This is capital that investors they'll be putting into this project. It wouldn't be a surprise to me if some of the pension funds represented in this room are going to be participating in that. They look at 35 and 50-year yields when they invest. They look at ridership studies. They're on their third ridership study right now. But investors are pretty shrewd. They know how to invest in conveyance systems, and they've decided after studying about 100 pairs of cities in America that the #1 candidate is Dallas to Houston. They like the fact that there's 6 million people living in this area and 6 million people living in the north area, and it's relatively flat. So they really like this area. They know that they're ready to go raise money to build this conveyance system. But the good news is, this is a private sector entity. So that's where it's a little hard to think about it, because when we think about mobility, a lot of times we think the government's going to do it. And the government's going to, take money, and they're going to continue to be a draw, and it's not going to make any money, and it's counterintuitive. This is actually putting money on the tax roll of every taxing jurisdiction that it goes through. So there's a $36 billion direct impact, benefits from the project over 25 years, and then there's a $2.5 billion tax revenue. These are taxes that are paid to the taxing jurisdiction. That could be the county, the city, the hospital district, the Lone Star College district, school district, benefit by having this improvement on the tax roll. Oh yeah, there's going to be jobs. 10,000 jobs each year while this is under construction. Take about 4 years to build. If you're in the construction industry, we need to talk to you. There's going to be actually a big drain on skilled workers to put this system in place. After the workers build the system, we'll need 1,000 workers to run the system. This is going to be a very comfortable, convenient, productive conveyance system. You run out to the track, you miss your train, have a cup of coffee, get the next one in 30 minutes. Again, you've paid for your ticket already on your phone, you walk on the train, and everything is electronically taken care of. There is a variable pricing that's based on demand. Clearly, the market's going to determine how you market 400 seats and what the pricing would be. But it'll be competitive to rent cars or going out and buying a ticket. Some of you who might plan ahead, you're going to get a much better price than somebody like me that might walk up the last minute. But there are going to be a variable pricing. And this is, on the right, it shows the alignments that are being considered by the federal government. We expect by the end of November, first part of December, that the Federal Rail Administration will give us a determination of the final alignment, originating in Harris County to Dallas, a total of 10 counties. And then you can see, there's a better picture maybe. We've done 28 open houses, we've had plenty of speaking engagements, and we're pleased to make ourselves available to come and have an open house in your community and share the information that we have. It's interesting, believe it or not, we have this wonderful big idea for economic development, and we offer to go and present the material, and a lot of people just say, we don't even want to hear about it. We want to draw our own conclusions. But it seems like in this society, where we really are in a state that's growing so rapidly, there is an opportunity to look at some big ideas and some new ideas. And again, we'd be pleased to come and bring this presentation. So Texas really is about big ideas. It's about big things. The last significant transportation infrastructure project, single project, is DFW Airport. Isn't that amazing? Think how long ago that was. That was about $700 million. Today, I think the airport's worth maybe $8 billion. But where would this state be if it had not have had the leadership and the foresight to invest in that system? We're talking about a big idea that literally will draw together and give an alternative to we, the motoring public, to move between our region and the Dallas-Fort Worth area and the universities that are in between. So, Representative Schofield, I want to say thank you. I think that concludes my talk. The only thing I'd say is take out your phones and text. We'd love to keep you updated. And if you'll text RAIL to this number, 52886, we can keep you updated as our project has milestone announcements. We'd be pleased to have you do that. Thank you, Representative.